Okay, so back to Proverbs. And now it's chapter 19, starting with 7. All the brothers of the poor hate him. How much more do his friends go far from him? He may pursue them with words, yet they abandon him. So that goes back to the others I was reading like this. Okay, now 17. He who has pity on the poor lends to the Lord, and he will pay back what he has given. You see, this is that thing again, that principle. It's like you're giving to God when you help the poor and give them things. And that's when the blessing will come back to you. But it has to be that way. This can't be in some other way, like what they're doing with all the arm twisting in the churches today. So, yeah, I made videos on that too. But okay, so that's important here. This is how this works. That is the principle right here. Okay, now 18. Chasten your son while there is hope, and do not set your heart on his destruction. So, in other words, if you discipline him in time right away, when he's young, you will help him to not be destroyed. Okay? So, it's for his own good. Okay, 19. A man of great wrath will suffer punishment, for if you rescue him, you will have to do it again. Oh, yes, that's this one. And this happens anyway. People who are really angry end up getting themselves into trouble all the time. But this is true for that, but it's true for so many things. Like if you run into literally what I would call a fool, and he got himself into some kind of trouble, and you don't know him, and you just help him out, you rescue him somehow. And then you find out a day later, he got himself into the same mess again. And you would have to rescue him again. And in fact, every day after that, you would have to do it all over again, every single day. And it's like if he hasn't learned his lesson after the first time, I'd be done. Like, I'm not going to risk myself rescuing this guy now every day. Or you'd be just as much a fool as him then, So you have to use discretion in these ways. And I see this a lot. It's like, well, the saying, you dug the ditch, now you're going to fall in it, That's how it goes. So, yeah. All right. Now we get to 20. Yeah, 20 verse 1. This is good. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is a brawler, and whoever is led astray by it is not wise. So it doesn't say you can never have any wine. Okay, just notice that. But, it's whoever is led astray by them are not wise. So if you're led astray by them, that's the problem. And there are many people, they have no self-control. They can't just have a small glass of wine and call it a day, in the evening or whatever. But they fall into this whole pool of alcohol and they never climb back out of it again. So, that's the danger there. So don't do that. Okay, 10. Here, this is about the weights again. Diverse weights and diverse measures, they are both alike an abomination to the Lord. What this meant was it was unfair. It was unjust. Somehow the buyer was getting cheated by the seller, okay? So that's what those were. Just there's a lot of explaining on that, but that's what it is. Okay, 23. Diverse weights are an abomination to the Lord, and dishonest scales are not good. That's the same. And there you can see, dishonest scales. So whatever they did is one thing, but there's dishonesty going on, and the buyer is getting cheated, is what's happening here. And God is not happy, and it's an abomination to him. That stuff is wrong. So that's it. Okay, 21. These are all sayings, this section. 23. Whoever guards his mouth and tongue keeps his soul from troubles. So we've seen some that were similar to that, that kind of thing. 22. 6. One of these. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Now, this is quoted a lot, and, it's like so many things. It could be, it's true in general, but not every case, And there are many Christian parents who did this, and the kid just didn't, turn out that way. But the thing is, we all make our own choice. So you can't force it on them just because you raise them that way. They can still end up going down the wrong path. And it's their choice and it's their fault. If you did all you could, it's not your fault. And a lot of parents, they guilt themselves over this a lot. And it's too bad, That's just one of the dangers with when you do have kids, is stuff can go wrong, and then people feel bad, and it's not their fault, but they still, for some reason, feel guilty. It's one thing to feel bad, but to feel guilty, and it's not their fault. You can be sad about it, but it's not that's not the same thing as feeling guilty. So just pray for them, and be a good example. That's all you can do. That's it. But I've seen cases like that. And then another thing I've seen, and this is a problem, is they try too hard, to push it on them. And they do act like they're making the choice for them, if a kid, it's your kid, and he lives in your house, and he has to go by certain rules, or she, of course, but you can't force them to be a Christian. You can't force them to believe certain things and feel a certain way. That's their choice, and that is only going to come from them. Just from them. So the more you are a good example and the more loving you are, it will help more. But the more they try to twist their arm and be too much of a dictator about it, it pushes them away, because then they start to rebel. They feel like, I don't want you telling me what you can't, and you can't tell them what to believe. That's true. So if people just keep that in mind, it helps so much. But if they try to force things on them that way, then they'll just rebel, and it will push them further away, which is the opposite of what you would want as a parent. So just a word of caution there. All right, I've seen it, I know. All right, now Let's see. 9. He who has a generous eye will be blessed, for he gives of his bread to the poor. So here we have one more of these. They're generous and they'll be blessed because they give to the poor. That's what it's saying. All right. Now, 15. Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. The rod of correction will drive it far from him. And probably quickly too, right? So, and don't be confused by this. I mean, you have to raise your kid and discipline your kid. You just can't force them to be a Christian or to believe in Christianity. That is only their choice. And that will come with time when they get older, and all you can do is be a good example. That will help, that's it. Be loving, be an example, live it, and that's it. That's all you can do. Pray for them, that's it. Okay, you can't force anyone, no matter who they are. 16. He who oppresses the poor to increase his riches, and he who gives to the rich will surely come to poverty. So, eventually their punishment comes. So that's it. And then sayings of the wise, and it's just more of the same, 23. Let's see, 4 to 5. Do not overwork to be rich, because of your own understanding cease. Will you set your eyes on that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away like an eagle toward heaven. That's so true as well. I have seen this too, where people take two people. One will work their, what off, and with the goal of getting rich. The other one will do the normal amount, right? Not too much, not too little, just the right amount. In the end, many times they both end up the same way when it comes to finances and stuff. So, and then you get the people that they work so hard at a job, like a corporate job, and they might be able to afford a big house, but they're never in it. They might have made enough money, but they never have time to enjoy it. They never go on vacation. They never go places on the weekend. They don't do anything. They're just working away like a slave laborer. And they're no better off than anyone. I mean, I'm better off than them by far in that case. So you have to keep all these things in perspective, keep it in balance. There's a lot of practical wisdom in that. Okay, do not withhold correction from a child. So here we go again, right? For if you beat him, doesn't mean beat him, but, spank him or something. For if you beat him with a rod, he will not die. Okay, they sometimes act like they're going to die. They don't, trust me. But they learn, and it's for their own good. They really do grow in the right direction that way. It's like you're pruning a plant and you want it to grow in the right direction. You have to do it that way. That means it's working if they're not happy, because you want that other behavior to stop. See, this is how it works. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell. That's how serious it is. See? Okay, so there's that. 17 to 18. Do not let your heart envy sinners, but be zealous for the fear of the Lord all the day. Exactly. For surely there is a hereafter, after you die, and your hope will not be cut off. See? Yep. Okay, 19. Hear, my son, and be wise, and guide your heart in the way. All right? Do not mix with wine bibbers or with gluttonous eaters of meat. This just means people, they eat too much and they drink too much. And when they eat, it's usually the wrong foods. It's not healthy and it's just not good. It's not going to be good for you. I mean, that's just the reality of it. For the drunkard and the glutton will come to poverty, and drowsiness will clothe a man with rags. I mean, how many are out there because they took a wrong turn, right? With vices. They call it vices like drugs, alcohol. Smoking is a vice, but it wouldn't necessarily lead to that unless, these things are so expensive that they might end up choosing that over paying their rent. Who knows, They stop, depending on what it is, they stop working and they just lie around. And I mean, you get those too, so you have to be careful with that. But it leads to that many times. So many of them are not all, okay, but many, I don't know how many, but a lot of them are like this. So just be careful. If you give them money, they're going to use it on that, and you're just enabling that then. So don't do that. Anyway, I could make a whole video on how to go about that, only I'm not even sure. I need to watch a video. How do you do this the right way? I've done it, but it's just hard now, to be sure and everything. So and then there's so many charities that they're corrupt now, many of them, so it's hard. But all right, anyway, moving on. 29 till the bottom here, so I'll do this. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has contentions? Who has complaints? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of eyes? Those who linger long at the wine. Those who go in search of mixed wine. Do not look on the wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup, when it swirls around smoothly. At the last it bites like a serpent and stings like a viper. Your eyes will see strange things, and your heart will utter perverse things. Yes, you will be like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, or like one who lies at the top of the mast, saying, They have struck me, but I was not hurt. They have beaten me, but I did not feel it. When shall I awake, that I may seek another drink? See, that's all they live for. And what happens with too much alcohol, okay, here's a little health lesson. Alcohol has I should say drinks like wine, whatever it is, it could be liquor, it could be champagne, it could be beer, whatever. Any alcoholic beverage, it has a different concentration of actual alcohol in it. So the less it has, the safer it is. And obviously, the more it has, the more dangerous it is. And then the quicker a person gets drunk, and the more drunk they get. Now, when people drink too much, there's that alcohol, they have another name for it chemically. I think it's ethanol or something like this. Anyway, it's a chemical that's actually poisonous. And the more of it, you take, the more poison you'll be putting in your body. And if it has a lot of that and a person drinks a lot, it starts to, they go numb and, kind of like they do. Like, that's why they talk louder, because they don't even hear themselves. they get very aggressive, just all these things. Like their brain starts to shut down and they start to act more angry and primitive. So what happens is this chemical starts to shut down their brain, and it literally does. So uh, that's why they don't make good decisions. That's why they can't drive right. That's why all these things, they make all these, do dumb things basically. So, and it starts working at the very front of the brain, and then it works its way backwards more to where the functional things are for the body. So the more they drink, first it just inhibits their reasoning, their thinking, their critical thinking, that kind of stuff. The more they drink, the further back it goes, and it starts shutting down their vital functioning of the body. And that's how and why they overdose on alcohol and they die. That's all it is. So, it's a very serious thing. And then, of course, drugs are even more dangerous. And there's so many really scary ones out there now. So, I mean, all I can say is just don't even touch a drug. Okay, don't even touch it. But if you do have a little wine, but just be very careful. I mean, these people that they get addicted and then they can't stay away, and then this is what happens, and then they can die. So be careful. Okay, that was the health lesson. Now, and all that stuff. 27. Let's see. And then here, I just like reading these headings. Further sayings of the wise is here. Further wise sayings of Solomon. Okay, so it's similar. It's all this kind of thing. It's like listening to good advice from a smart parent who's concerned about your well-being and about honoring God with the right kind of morality. That's what this all is. Okay, 27:6. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. What this means is, a real friend will tell you the truth, and it might hurt, but they'll tell you what they know you need to hear for your own good, for your best interest, to help you, okay? And you should appreciate that. Don't get mad, okay? It's if they're being a faithful friend. An enemy will flatter you all the way around, but it's deceitful. They don't mean it. It's probably not true, and they're just trying to butter you up for something, who knows what. So be careful with the flattery of people. When you can tell, salesmen will come around and they'll do this stuff. They'll just flatter you and act like they care so much about you. And, it's just so they can make money and gain from you at your expense and their benefit. Most of the time, that's all it is. So be careful with that. Okay. 28. The wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion. And that's true too. And because they're always afraid, they're ashamed, they know they did wrong, they're worried they'll be caught, and they're always kind of in flight mode. They're always looking over their shoulder. They're always worried about that stuff. But the righteous are bold as a lion. You just roam around like a lion, and you don't worry about anything because you didn't do anything wrong, and you're just bold. Could be your personality, but different reasons why you'd be bold. So anyway, that's it there. 6. Better is the poor who walks in his integrity than one perverse in his ways, though he be rich. So we've seen these before here, right? Okay, 11. The rich man is wise in his own eyes, but the poor who has understanding searches him out. They find out. So, okay, 27. He who gives to the poor will not lack, but he who hides his eyes will have many curses. So this is similar to what I was saying earlier about these. Okay, now 29:7. The righteous considers the cause of the poor, but the wicked does not understand such knowledge. Right? You wonder, like, why are there people who, why are there poor people? I remember when I was a child, I was very young, and I asked my mom this question, why are people poor? Why are some people rich and some people poor? And she started telling me about money, and so as a kid, it was kind of funny. I said something like, well, what if we just did away with all the money? And then it would be everybody would be okay if it's about the money. Later I found out, oh, okay, I see how it works now. But anyway, but I was concerned, and I was like 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there, and I was concerned about it. But, like now, to this day, you wonder, like, okay, like, all these people that are living in certain ways now, like, what causes this? Would they live in their car if they didn't have to? Would they want that? Some do, but many wouldn't, right? So why is that the case? Why can't they afford housing? And you start questioning these things. That's good, because you care, you have a heart, you would like the problem solved, right? But the wicked, they don't understand this kind of knowledge, and they don't have a brain according to this, but they definitely do not have a heart. So that's a good one. Okay, now 15. The rod and rebuke give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother. So same idea, 17. Correct your son, and he will give you rest. Yes, he will give delight to your soul. So if you do the work now, you'll be able to rest later. Otherwise, nope. Okay, 25. The fear of man brings a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord shall be safe. Okay, so here's that comparison, and it's very true. Again, all right, this one. An unjust man is an abomination to the righteous, and he who is upright in the way is an abomination to the wicked. That's so true. If you're righteous, you are disgusted by those who are corrupt and unjust. It's just a natural revulsion you have to that. And as a righteous person, we this is how they feel about us. Like, they're disgusted by those who are righteous. If they're unrighteous, if they're wicked, they hate us, they detest us, they can't stand how we're righteous. And that's just how it is. I've seen that all over the place. So, okay, now here, this is interesting. The wisdom of Agur. So this little part here is from some other guy named Agur. And, you can read all that. But down here, This one is the only one in this whole book that's messianic. So it's interesting here. Proverbs 30, verse 4. He whoops, who has ascended into heaven or descended, like from heaven, who has gathered the wind in his fists, who has bound the waters in a garment, who has established all the ends of the earth. What is his name, and what is his son's name, if you know? So here, establishing all the ends of the earth, all this can only be God the Father. And then here, his son, what is his son's name? So here we go, he has a son, that there's only one way to look at this, there's no other way around it. And yes, we do know what his name is. And I'm going to do a little thing in a minute about that. But okay, let me just finish this real quick. Here, yeah, I'll circle this and do that in a second. Let me just do this real quick because it's just a little bit more. 31. This was mentioned, this person over here, and this is his mother, so this is somebody else now. What his mother taught this guy. Okay. All right, so 31, it goes on a little ways, and then 8 to 9 I want to do. Open your mouth for the speechless in the cause of all who are appointed to die. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. So, it's another one of these. This is interesting, though, like those who can't talk for themselves and they're appointed to die. That's kind of interesting. You can apply that to certain things today, right? So there's that. Anyway, so there's that. And then here, this part just goes on. There's this whole thing about the virtuous wife, and it's famous, and it goes till here, and that's the end of it. So it ends with that, all the stuff that she does for her household, and all that. So okay, and now I'll do this other thing here. Let me go back to 30, verse 4. Maybe I'll use the black one. It's darker. Okay, so here, just this last part. Who has established the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is his son's name, if you know? So, there. I do know. That's it. So, and it doesn't matter what language you pronounce it in, okay? He's the Son of God. He knows you mean you're talking to him. There's so many people nowadays that get hung up on all this name movement stuff, whether it's, names for the Father or names for the Son, and they're thinking it has to be Hebrew, and that's false, okay? It's any language. It's been translated, all this has been translated into every language, okay? So this happens to be from the New Testament, which was written in Greek. So guess what? That's okay. If they have a problem with that, then they're being a fool. They're lacking understanding and wisdom. And, they need to be a little more abstract in their thinking and understand it, you know, just like that's how language works, you know. it's translated into every language, and Jesus, the name of Jesus, is an example of that. And I don't even think it's in the Hebrew in the Bible. You know, it's mentioned only in Greek in the New Testament. So anyway, but it's gone into every language. So, and just like other words go into every language, and guess what? That's okay, and that's it. But that's it. These people that they don't understand that. I mean, they really are lacking understanding. They really are, and they make this big deal out of it. It's just sad, and it's a whole cult by itself. So anyway, that's another story. I've talked about that before. Anyway, so much for that. But yes, his name is Jesus, and the problem is not, there's no problem with that. If anybody has a problem with that, the problem is with them, because they don't understand that this is fine. There's nothing wrong with this. It's not some pagan person, or, that's so ridiculous. Anyway, don't fall into that, okay? Just do yourself a favor. You'll spare yourself many, many troubles if you don't fall into that. Okay, many woes will be avoided. So anyway, I see these people so much there on the internet now, and it's just unbelievably ridiculous, how they can think this way. And I mean, I always think, well, nobody has any excuse in a way, because we have the truth, it's here. So anyway, I could go on. I'm going to not ramble now anymore. That's it. That's the truth, and that's it. So anyway, just have a blessed rest of your day, and I'll be back tomorrow. So we're done with Proverbs, and then tomorrow's going to be the Song of Songs, and that's a good one. So I'll be back tomorrow, and that's it.